So Carolina's got 4 right shot D.
Yeah.
It would seem it comes down to Brett Pesce or Dougie Hamilton. Justin Falk, you're probably not looking there. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, you're probably not looking there. But
No.
Dougie Hamilton's really interesting to me. Last year he scored 17 goals for the Calgary Flames. That tied for the league lead in goals by defensemen. He has scored at least 10 goals in 5 consecutive years. And yet, he's 4th in Carolina in ice time among defensemen. He's been traded twice.
It doesn't add up.
Right?
And I know where you're going, and we've asked the same questions of hockey men that we trust. It's hard to get a definitive response or answer is it Dougie Hamilton being unlucky? Now, when he got traded out of Boston, whether it was his fault or not, I think that he was an immature young hockey player at that point. That was an experienced team for the most part, and I think that there were some growing pains there, right? And they got decent return for Dougie Hamilton as part of that package. You got to give Brad Treliving a ton of credit for what he got back in the trade with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right.
Like, come on. So in the deals that he's been involved with, there's been value that has gone back the other way. But to your point now, Gord, when you look at the stats line of Dougie Hamilton with the Carolina Hurricanes, it doesn't compute. But what does a deal like that look like again? That's what I always want to come back to. Toronto did backflips in acquiring Jake Muzzin because they didn't have to lose an NHL roster player. They didn't want to lose Grundstrom. They'd have preferred Liljegren been involved in that deal. And I think Los Angeles, in fact, wanted Sandin. And that wasn't going to happen. So they settled on Grundstrom. Are you willing at this stage, based on the upside of what you're seeing in Janssen, to throw him into the mix? Kasperi Kapanen, for me, is a non-starter at this point of the year. Maybe you have to do it in the offseason because of offer sheet threats and the cap and all the nonsense anyway. But are you doing that for Brett Pesce? You'd love to throw Nikita Zaitsev into that mix, but Tom Dundon told us not that long ago that he doesn't put a premium on any defense, so he's not taking on that contract based on the way Zaitsev is playing.
Apparently he told people that if Carolina had the first pick in the draft last year, they wouldn't have taken Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah. Makes you wonder. Which makes you shake your head a little bit.
So anyway, I just don't know what that package would look like because it has to be dollar in, dollar out from Toronto's perspective. So Hamilton is what, $6 million?
Yeah, just shy, 5.75. 2 more years after this, it's 5.75.
I think he'd be a great ad from Toronto's perspective. How do you make it work? And what does Carolina need back? That's probably going to make it an issue.
But don't you want to, if you're looking at all those guys you talked about, Kasperi Kapanen, Andreas Janssen, and you're looking at a cap picture where it's going to be difficult to keep all those guys in the universe where they're going to need raises because they're both restricted free agents, do you get ahead of it now and lose one to gain that asset you've long been looking for?
From a management standpoint, I would say yes. From a coaching perspective, no chance Mike Babcock wants to lose either one of those two forwards. Zero chance.
And this is the great luxury of being a coach, Darren, is you get to want all the guys you want, but not have to give up anything.
Oh, no.
Right? Coaches want everyone, but don't want to trade anyone.
Oh, yeah. No, I need Wayne Simmons, so go out and get Wayne Simmons. I need that right shot D, man. Go and get him. I don't care who you give up from the Marlies, but don't touch my roster. I mean, that's how the coach looks at it. It's next to impossible. I mean, they're going to lose players. I mean, there's no doubt of that. But the way we look at the Toronto Maple Leafs today, and based on what we saw last night in Colorado and how the blender came out with his deep pairings, I mean, that's why we're even having this conversation. Is it's just wild speculation, and I would throw into that. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can see Dougie Hamilton on the right side on the top pair. I can't see Brett Pesce there yet.
No.
Brett Pesce's a top 4. Is he a top pair?
There's something about Hamilton, and I think a lot of it is scurrilous. I think stuff came out in Calgary. They didn't like to go to museums, and he
liked museums. That was the problem.
Pardon me. So he wanted to go to museums, and the guys were going for beer or whatever. Calgary Flames guys say that's not the case.
Yeah,
the Calgary guys I've talked to, he's a different guy. He's very quiet. He's very studious. He's not the cookie cutter.
I mean, I've interviewed him a bunch of times. As if you've talked to him, I like the guy. He's great to talk to. You get, legit conversation. Yeah. He's not afraid. He'll answer questions. He'll engage in conversation. I don't know. I mean, we keep looking for something that's buried there, and I don't dig too deep into that nonsense. But I haven't found it yet.
But being different, Dregs, in hockey can hurt. It can hurt you.
It can hurt.
This is not a sport that really encourages peacocks, right?
that's
Like
fair.
it doesn't like
You say PK or peacock?
peacocks, yes.
Yeah.
Or
well,
PK.
PK is one
Or
of them.
PK,
Right, exactly. No, and you're right. I mean, but look, the guy's from a great family. His dad was a national team rower. His mom was a national team basketball player. I mean, incredible family. And he's a
Great
GTA
family.
guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a GTHL kid. I mean, maybe we connect those dots too often in this town, but makes sense to me.